Today, I have the brilliant Erika J. Kendrick, author, speaker, teacher, mental wellness advocate, and former Chicago Bulls cheerleader. Welcome to Radiant Genius Podcast. I'm Elsa Mahari, a creative strategist and feminine entrepreneur. Join me and the occasional guest where we will illuminate the path to brilliance in wellness, tech, and business trends. I will be guiding you through the journey of your inner genius to transform you into your most brilliant and badass self. Give yourself permission to live out loud at the brightest level. Hello, and welcome to Radiant Genius Podcast. I'm Elsa Mahari, creative strategist and entrepreneur. Hi, Erika. How are you today? Thank you for joining.
Hey, Elsa. I am very excited about doing this podcast today with you, and I am in good spirits today. I got my coffee, so I'm ready to go.
Awesome. I have my water for hydration. It's a nice day in New York, and you're joining us from LA.
Yes, beautiful day here.
Nice. That's awesome. So I try to do these evergreen because it's interviewing brilliant minds and entrepreneurs and people who have had creative journeys. But we have just finished in the United States in what month is this? November. So we just finished the elections. So it's a really interesting time with people and emotions, their mental health, wellness. And you're an advocate for that arena. And so have you been doing a lot of speaking in that area? Have people been asking you on stages to talk about how to cope, or do you have suggestions? Like, have you amped up in that area, your business? Because you have a lot of businesses, which we'll get into, like all the things you do.
I know, the serial visionist. Yeah, definitely. Folks are struggling, but it's nowhere near as bad as it was when he was elected for his first term. I think people have developed coping skills from that fiasco and the George Floyd temperature around the country. The aftermath of that was pretty intense. And then with all of the protesting and then COVID, we developed a very strong arsenal of coping skills. And I think folks were able to put that tool belt on and pull out their tools as needed after the election results were announced. Needless to say, the kids are a lot more resilient than the adults are. I've been on tour the last few weeks since my book dropped at the beginning of October, and the children are like right on track. They're like, this is what it is. We're doing well. If we're struggling with anxiety or depression or feeling stressed or overwhelmed, it's not because of that. So the kids are all right. It's us. And what I found is that in general, our community is a lot stronger than it was before as a result of all the things that kind of forced us to band together and lean on one another. And so I've found that a lot of folks have been doing that.
That's amazing. I found a lot of my very high achievement oriented, super corporate girlies are taking a step back. Trisha Hershey's Nat Ministry is in circulation, and folks are like, how can I do less? How can I do less? I need to rest. This is my time now. And so I think that's really mentally healthy for a lot of folks.
Absolutely.
And it's serving us, I think, seeing that attitude, and I'm happy for us.
I am too. I feel like it's overdue, but I also feel like out of necessity comes progress. And I think that it's definitely on the progression trajectory for us as a collective to say, it's time for me to rest. Rest, sis, get your rest. Nope, I'm not getting out to campaign for your cause or yours. It's about us right now taking a breath. And I know, because we are also resilient, just like the kiddos, that we will come out fighting again together, because I'm no psychic, but the way things have been are generally predictors of how they will be. And we were forced to get out there when he was president before. And I think that's going to happen inevitably again because of the turns that are going to be taken in this country, unfortunately. But right now, I love that we're resting and I love that we're checking on each other. I had some girlfriends check on me a few days ago. They said, check on the strong, check on the strong. You're always the one stepping out for us. So we just want to make sure you're good. I was like, well, actually, my best friend and I are watching Scandal reruns. Like, we are
Love
good.
it.
And
I
so
love it.
I love that the sisterhood is stronger than ever, especially
Mhm.
after the gut punch that we just took.
So you just came off of a book tour. So tell us, so you have a book, Who Moved My Happy?
Yes.
Which is a bestseller and highly recommend. I have to get it as well. It's a mental health workbook, right? And it's all ages, right?
Yes. Who Moved My Happy?
Love it.
This is my baby. But what just came out is the middle grade novel.
Okay. Yes. That one. I wanted to plug the Who Moved My Happy just because we were on the mental health kick.
Yes.
And I just feel like there's so many great workbooks, codependency, and just things that really help if you maybe don't have access to a therapist, you're a DIY person, or you could be doing it in tandem. But it's really so important that people stabilize their own situations because it can really spin out. So, okay, so tell us about your new book. Okay, so you are a fiction writer. So before we get into that, I just wanted to get a little bit of storytelling. So you're a cheerleader and now you're an author, speaker. So tell us a little bit about that bridge and how you became a cheerleader even, because I think I didn't get that story when we chatted last time.
Well, the cheerleading is what I call part of my arsenal. And what I mean by that is I have my own mental health tool belt, my own mental fitness tool belt. And a lot of what's jam packed into my tool belt to help me with my own mental health challenges. So I am thriving despite having bipolar disorder. And I've been diagnosed with generalized and social anxiety as well as severe acute depression. I got that diagnosis in college. And so in my arsenal, it's jam packed with the arts. And what that looks like for me is dancing, writing. I love the theater arts and doing a lot of crafting whenever I can find the time, just using my hands. And so dancing was something that I'd been doing since I was 3 years old. It was my sport in the household. I also loved basketball and gymnastics, but dancing was my jam. And so as an adult after college, it was kind of like, well, where do I go from here? I can take dance classes, but like in terms of challenging myself and putting myself out there. So it was very much in my community in Chicago. The Bulls were a big deal. The Bears were a big deal. The Bears didn't have a cheerleading squad, but the Bulls did. And so I trained for about 9 months for auditions and I got back into dance classes heavily and I made the team. But at the time I was suicidal also and no one knew. And I was really struggling with my mental health. But having that regimen to go and train, and so that meant going to the gym, that meant going to dance classes, that meant eating well, that meant getting my sleep. All of my mental fitness tools were being activated because I had this big goal in mind. And so I like to say that dancing and specifically the Chicago Lovables saved my life at that juncture.
You weren't a high school cheerleader. You sort of finished and then you were like, that's pretty amazing.
No, I was. So I started at 3 and I never stopped. Like it was my sport.
So you were dancing.
Oh yeah, my entire life.
And then you were cheerleader in high school and okay.
Cheerleader elementary.
Because there's different dance, there's ballet, tap, jazz, modern, you know what I mean?
I did all of it. I did all of it. I did African, I did hip hop, I did tap, I did ballet, I did jazz, I did contemporary. I did all of it. It was my lifesaver for so many periods in my life when I was struggling with my mental health before I got diagnosed, before I got past the stigma and actively said to a therapist, hey, this is what's going on with me. I don't know what any of this means, but none of it feels right in my my peers are not having these experiences. So
Mhm.
dancing was that thing that anchored me in wellness when I wasn't aware of it, because it required the release of the feel good brain chemicals. So the serotonin, the dopamine, the norepinephrine, the oxytocin from just the 20 minutes of aerobic activity. And so that's why we love going to the gym, because after
Yeah.
20 minutes of whatever cardio, we start to feel like, wow, like that
Yeah.
I can conquer the world kind of feeling. So yeah, I'd been dancing forever. But after college, it was kind of like, okay, what dance team, like how do I continue this? And so that's why I ended up making the professional team my big goal.
That's just so amazing still.
Thank you.
Because, I mean, you studied psychology. I also studied psychology. I like dance. I was never a professional dancer. I did a lot of sports. I go to the gym a lot and it helps me. And I have a couple questions. Like, I want to know what I think is so incredible. And in our community, there is still so much of a stigma, which is why there's so much mental health
Yes.
lack of, I think, awareness and help professionally. Like, it's really all over the place, but you're a leader in speaking about it, sharing your story, full transparency. How do people react when you show up off stage and then you're like, you know what, these are things that I dealt with? Because they're life events that people are really uncomfortable talking about. Even if it's your personal experience and you're sharing, like, I went through this difficult thing. This is how it affected me. I'm fine now, but like, this is what happened. A lot of people are very uncomfortable with hearing that, taking it in, knowing how to respond. And so I'm just curious, like, how in general do people respond outside of a professional setting where it's like, I've been asked to speak about this?
Yeah. It depends on the setting. I'll start with that. When I am in a mixed company with white folks, black folks, you name it, it's generally a lot different than when I'm talking to black and brown folks. And I'm watching it change since I've been doing this work for the past 15 years. But when I'm in mixed company or in majority white crowds where they've asked me to speak, they've put me on their program, they've got me there, I'm on the agenda, I am met with a ton of gratitude and thanks for representing this experience. I'm dealing with this, or my daughter, or I did a tour on the coast of California with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And it'd be crowds of thousands, a majority white folks, and they were in intense gratitude. And they felt like I was a voice for the loved one that they lost. And so when I started the Who Moved My Happy tour, it came out of necessity. Progress came out of necessity because I started getting calls from my peers that looked like me saying, hey, can you bring that conversation to us? And I'd say, I've been trying, but folks won't call me back, or they won't respond to my emails, or we weren't ready to have that conversation. This was about 15 years ago or so, or maybe not that long ago. So when asked, I went as fast as I possibly could. And the reception I got in those spaces was, I thought I was alone. I thought I was the only one having this experience. I've never met anyone who told my story. I've never met anyone who could relate to what my daughter was going through, or my sister, or my mother. And so there was a lot of, we're hearing this language in this kind of life saving conversation space for the first time. And once I understood that, I really focused on the language I used to articulate my experience with my mental health. And what I wanted to become was a conduit for conversation so that they would be equipped with language also so they could continue the conversation. So it was vastly different depending on the audience. And then I tailored a conversation for younger people because I started going into schools a lot, or in spaces where there were middle-aged kids and high school scholars. And then I did a whole college tour. And so the language shifted, because what I learned when I would be in front of our communities was that when I said mental health, they would push back. But when I said mental fitness, they leaned in. Oh, what's that? Like, that sounds
Ah,
sexy. Like, oh, what's that?
interesting. Huh.
Or when I talked about slaying brain pain, they'd be like, oh, yes, okay. Or when I said to the kiddos, my mental monsters were really strong. My mental monsters, I have monsters. I know monsters. And so they lean in. So
I love that. Language is just so important. You have that additional gift allowed you to really
thank you.
connect in, right? And how you communicated. That's really special.
Thank you. So that's the answer depending on the spaces, but I wanted to close that out by simply saying the disparity between the two audiences is getting smaller because we are having those conversations. We are inviting folks in who look like us, who are ready to take the mask off and share their experiences and offer programming and offer resources and tools. I know so many fabulous, fabulous Black women that are at the helm of this, whether if they're therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, or if they are walking around with lived experience, sharing theirs in front of audiences. And the needle is moving, and I'm so overjoyed about that.
It's refreshing. It's also like going through my head are a lot of people's stories. I have a wide variety of friends, but I've been through a lot of difficulties from the people that know me. And so people will share when they go through theirs as well. So I have a lot of secret stories of people that went through
Yeah.
struggles, and really secret stories, I would never share with anyone. And I know they haven't also. So on the outside, this facade of like, yep, I'm just working, but then what they're really going through and they're not able to get help. And even if they have a therapist, like it's a heavy burden to carry that you're dealing with this thing. I have great empathy because it is a very, very difficult space. I'm even thinking about a few people who passed away, and my intuitive sense was that they did commit suicide, but the family official story was something different. They were not allowed to have their actual story in the end because in the Black community, it's this shameful thing. There are a lot of things we still have to overcome in terms of, because at the end of the day, we are really still very much judged by appearance
Yes.
in all aspects, not just professionally, but your mental space. And a lot of us, we carry the burden of always having to represent being well so that we can stay employed, so that we can continue to support our family, so that we can, all of these things. It's like you don't know when that's going to come back up to threaten your future position, advancement,
Yeah.
profession. It's so horrible. It's like we don't even have the luxury of just being sick in peace with support. So it's just for me incredible to hear you had that freedom. You had a lot of support from your family as well, which allowed you after to be
I
able to
did.
say like, okay, I will be this representative for people and I will light the path. So thank you for that collectively.
You're welcome.
I hope everybody gets to buy this workbook and use this workbook. And so now moving into, and okay, so from cheerleader, then you went and you became a fiction writer.
Yeah. Initially, there was some time in between where I tried to get a job and work a normal job like grown-ups do after college. And it was a struggle for me because my mental health was unchecked. And I would have episodes, depressive episodes, where I couldn't get out of bed, I couldn't shower, I couldn't brush my teeth, I couldn't eat, or I'd sleep all the time. And so that's not really conducive to holding down a job.
And this was after cheerleading. Like cheerleading ended. And how long was the cheerleading as a professional experience?
I did it for one season because my mental health wouldn't allow me to do it for longer. And I was not in therapy and I was not taking the suggested meds. I say suggested. I don't think the psychiatrist would agree that he was suggesting them, but I wasn't ready to really accept this thing that was a part of me. And then being an NBA cheerleader meant being on the court in front of thousands, also VIP at parties and then special engagements. And so I leaned all the way into that. And over time, I struggled and suffered, and I had to take a step back after that season. But it took a long time for me to figure out how to fit the square of me into the circle of life. And as a result, I wasn't able to really work. But like I said at the start of this, is that writing really was my big tool in my tool belt, my arsenal of mental fitness resources. And so I was living in New York. I had just finished working for Def Jam Records, and I had worked at the Apollo Theater for a while. And I decided to write this story about an NBA cheerleader. And again, it was accident. I was out of necessity. Came this progression into like the writing space. I was working on a different project that turned into my first novel, and I like to say they were urban Sex in the City books.
Mhm.
And so the first one was Confessions of a Rookie Cheerleader, and followed by the spinoff to that, which was called Appetite. And Random House sent me on a tour and did all the things. And it was a dream come true because I've always been a writer as a student and a scholar, but I never saw it as a career path. But I got to talk about things in these books that I loved. I love romance. I love love in all shades and colors. And so I got to really focus on this NBA cheerleader and her story, which just it kind of developed a cult following over the years. But I decided while I was touring that my anxiety was so significant when it was time for me to tour in front of adults. And I love children. And I figured if I was writing children's books, I'd have a better time touring. And
Ah.
I wouldn't have panic attacks and I wouldn't have all this like, I can't breathe before it's time to go out and start talking. And I can turn it on. I've learned how to do that as a skill. It's not a gift for
Mhm.
me. And it was something I had to really hone in on and figure out how to do when it was go time, or I wouldn't have this job either. And I love writing books and I also love touring and I love talking to readers, but that became almost crippling for me. And so I started drinking heavily. And I was like, okay, this is the road to nowhere. So let me start writing kids' books. And my agent, she didn't rep that. And so I basically had to start over some years later to get into the lane that I'm in today.
So, okay, so your first book is out and published, and it was for a totally different audience.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
interesting. Because I thought you started just with the young
No.
adult books, but you
Mm-mm.
start. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And that book is still it's out. People can get that book still.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They can get it on Amazon. I mean, it has a cult of
What's the name of that book?
Confessions of a Rookie Cheerleader.
Okay. Nice. So you have that adult book, and then you have. I think I've heard of this book as well. I really.
I mean,
And
literally, it blew up, and I was like, "What's happening? This is
that's
a little
amazing.
paperback. It wasn't even a hardcover."
The title is great already. Like, it's going to be good. And you've since written three other
Yes,
fiction for
right.
middle, and you call it's a category called middle.
Middle grade.
Okay.
That's the category. But if you go in Barnes and Noble, the genre or the category that the biggest book selling retailer calls it is young readers.
Okay. Young readers. I'm familiar with young readers. Middle grade, I've not heard of before. So, okay. And that happened. And when did you first publish that?
So the first one came out in 2020 and
Oh, wow. Okay.
called Squad Goals. And it came out in
Okay.
paperback and it blew up. We were on Good Morning America and Fox News and Nightline, and we were on everything. And it was during the pandemic, but it is the sweetest, cutest, funniest story. And I'd been working on it for 15 years, not on purpose,
Wow.
not on purpose. But like I said, when I decided to write for children, I started and then I stopped because of life and started again and
Mhm.
stopped. And so it wasn't continuous. And I ended up moving out to Los Angeles. I was in New York City. And then I taught school with Teach for America, which was a dream job for 2 years. And the kids were like, you got to finish it. You have to, because I got really close with my students. I love children, and they were the ones that encouraged me to stop teaching and go finish writing this adorable, hilarious, sweet book. And so I did.
So it was really cheerleading to teaching. There was cheerleading one book, and then teaching was kind of anchored your career and then you got into the novels. And so now,
Yeah.
do you exclusively write or do you teach still full time? Like, how does that work?
Don't know. I'm the kind of person that, and most of my friends are like this, when I am dedicated to something, I give it 150%.
Mm.
And it's really hard to then give something else that requires 150%, like all of that, because I have nothing left. And so the 2 years of Teach for America, I tried writing. I tried writing at night, on the weekends, during breaks, and I just couldn't. I was exhausted. And there's no way I could teach now and still be writing. But my love for teaching, my passion for teaching, and my passion for writing are all coming together in the newest project that I'm launching. So I will be able to get back to teaching. It's one of my favorite things to do. But yes, it was Confessions of a Rookie Cheerleader. And then I wrote the spinoff, Appetite. And I got to Los Angeles and was teaching. And then my kiddos got me to go and finish writing. And I met my husband. He wasn't my husband then, who said, "You're a writer. Like, I read your other books way back when you were writing adult fiction. Like, you're a really good writer." He's like, "Don't tell anybody, but I'm going to pay all the bills and you go write." And
Amazing.
he was like my new
Amazing.
boyfriend. He wasn't even my husband. Like, I knew he was going to be my husband because I was like, anybody that says
Clearly,
and sees me and believes in me and my
yeah.
talent and my passion, like, oh,
You
I'm
were the
going to,
black cat, he was the yellow lab. I love
yeah,
that
yeah,
story. I love that story. He showed right up and facilitated. And so you were able to stop teaching then, and then you kicked out three more or two
yeah,
more over the
3 more.
course of like
Yep.
5 years, 4 years.
Yeah. Since 2020. Yeah. Wow. Wow. Yeah.
Amazing.
I try to turn out one a year or one
Hmm.
every like year and a half so that I don't lose my audience unless they age out and they hit high school and they're like, I don't want to read those books anymore. But I find that a lot of high school students love the books because they can just like get through them easily and it's a fun story. But yeah, like every year and a half maximum, we just finished another book proposal for the fourth book in this world. So we'll see what happens with that.
I'm so excited. I'm just going to, because I'm always, as a visionary, do you have plans to option these books? Because people are always looking for content. And, we need more romantic stories. I don't know how much Netflix and Hulu or streaming you watch, but everything is so bleak and dark, honestly.
Agreed.
It's like apocalyptic. There's a lot of violence. There's a couple stories here and there, but it all kind of goes the same route. And
Yeah.
so I feel like we need these stories out there. Also, characters like real lived experiences, and I haven't read. I have to go now read them, but I just know from talking to you that the content it has a level of layered depth. It's fun, but it also has like important information because we talked about like the mental health stuff, the transparency that you have. I know it shows up in your books as well, which is
Yeah.
really valuable. So I feel like if it got optioned, that would just be amazing for you.
I would love that. And the Babysitters Club is no longer on television. People ask me, like, what lane would your books kind of fall? And I'm like, well, the Babysitters Club with a lot of diversity, but like funny. Or like when I'm talking to older people, so I turned 50 this year. So like my peers, I say, remember Sweet Valley High? They're like, oh, I love Sweet Valley High because we didn't have a lot of choices back then. I said, well, it's like a younger version of that, but like sweeter and like infused with mental health because every book, so the first one is Squad Goals. And then the second book is called Cookie Monsters. And then the one that just came out last month is called Insta Famous. And each of them, the main character is Black and their squad is diverse and they all go to the same school. So there's a lot of character overlap. But in every book, there's a mental health thread. And in some books, it's a little stronger than others. But in the books, I put real therapy sessions on the pages so that any kiddo anywhere around the world can have access to therapy. And For example, Brooklyn Ace in Cookie Monsters with the little
Mhm.
rainbow goddess braids. She's a fabulous character. And she struggles with generalized anxiety. And anxiety is the number one mental health challenge in our country for
Yes.
kids right now. And so she's not gotten treatment. She went to one session, like I guess a year ago before the story starts. And it was around the time when her mom passed. And so she's dealing with renewed grief as well as anxiety as she wants to be the number one cookie seller in her school district. And it's something that her mom and her used to do together. And now her mom's no longer here. So it brings up all this stuff. So through a series of interactions with her squad and like her like mentors, she ends up in therapy. And the therapist gives tangible tools that any kid who's reading the book can use immediately for feeling stressed or feeling
That's amazing.
overwhelmed or feeling like I can't get it together. And so I loved that because when I tour, I'm in front of all kinds of kids. But when I'm in underserved, underrepresented areas, those kids don't have access to therapy. Their school counselor is oftentimes representing 5 different schools, much less
Mhm. Wow.
not on campus every day, not able to interact with them every day. So they can get real tools that they see the main character Brooklyn use. And then in Insta Famous, one of the main characters has undiagnosed ADHD. What does that look like? And then she ends up in therapy. And that book showcases group therapy, which is very different from
Mm.
one-on-one therapy and
Mhm.
so individualized. And so kids can see the benefits of group therapy, and the other character comes in and she's like, I'm not sharing my business with these kids. Like, I don't know them. And she ends up opening up and getting the tools and also feeling the support from the community that the group provides, and is able to go use her tools and see changes begin to happen, not immediately, but over time. So I love the books for that reason. And I would love to have them optioned one day with the right team and the right circumstance, and someone who would love on them the way that I do.
And even high school curriculum or middle school curriculum, like as in required reading, I think
Yeah.
that would be also great. I don't know the process for getting these books into that system, but I think there's so few books that do double time as your books do. And it's just, connecting the dots to the right folks. But
Right.
so tell us about, and I'm really excited about this. It's almost, I didn't ask your astrological sign, but I'll ask it after because it's private. But, because there's certain people that like, they're here to serve, and Virgos. And I feel like when I meet Virgo folks, it's like they're doing this, they're doing that. And like through their life challenges, that ends up servicing the collective. And your work and life has a bit of that feel to it. Like you went through what you went through, but it's helping a lot of people ultimately. And you're living your truth and you're happy, and you just got married,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Congratulations. And
Thank you.
so, which is amazing. Things are going well. So, as you're helping other people, things in your life are blooming. So, you have a new venture, which is like your third business at this point.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about this. I one day would like to write a book. I used to work in publishing on the art director side. So, I would help make everything beautiful for people, but because I worked in that industry, I have a lot of friends that are writers and editors, and most of the editors have books. All of the writers have books. And I'm like, I would like a book. And the process, it's like, do I want to do a photo book? Do I want to do a memoir? Do I want to do, and now that Pluto has moved, well, today we'll be moving from Capricorn into Aquarius, is my book going to be about how I lived through that experience? There's so many things. I'm always, and a wellness book, a travel book, but ultimately, there are hurdles figuring out how to do a book. And I've designed some books for folks, for creatives that I know, and most of the time it's self-published. I've designed books within publishing companies, which I don't have to, obviously, that takes care of itself within the company. So I know the process, but doing it on your own is not as easy as it seems, especially when you're a little bit outside of the system. So your new venture, is going to help people understand the process, help them through the process. It's like a coursework, how to publish a book, how to get your nonfiction, fiction book out there. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, congratulations on deciding that one day you're going to write a book. When the time is right, I know you will, because you are a woman who makes it happen. But it's a big deal to get to that point and say, I have one in me, at least one. So, some people end up churning out one and they say, I've got a couple more. That's what happened with me. But my business is called Publishing Prep, and it's a relaunch. I used to have Publishing Prep when I lived in New York, but it was on site in person. And now we're taking it digitally. So everyone around the world can have access. Essentially what it is, it's a boutique curriculum for aspiring authors, and it helps them navigate the publishing landscape. Because like you said, it's really hard. If you're on the outside, it's kind of like, okay, I have this idea. How do I make it a book? And then once you do that, then it's like, okay, now what do I do with it? Do I just let it sit on my drive, on my computer? Like, what happens? And so it can get very overwhelming. It can get incredibly complicated. I went through it alone with no mentor, no advocates, no guidance, nothing except Google back in the day, many, many years ago. So I want to take the pain away. I want to offer that gift to other folks who either are where you are and say, hey, I've got this idea, or I've got these ideas. I need to figure out the big one and begin to put it together so I can lay it on the page and then get a literary agent that's aligned with who I am and what my vision is for my career, and then get it marketed for publishing. And so all of those steps are what we offer with Publishing Prep. And like I said, it'll be digitally now, so it's course oriented. And there will be a signature course, a big, chunky 7-week course that takes you from idea to getting your book into the hands of your fans. I don't help you write it. There are other services that do that. I simply take you through all of the steps and I go in depth with each of them. And what that looks like is bringing in best-selling authors to lead some of the modules in the big course. It looks like bringing in my favorite top editor at one of the top 5 houses to come in and lead a couple of courses, as well as reading certain folks' first page of their manuscript when it's polished and ready to go, and then giving one-on-one feedback, which is unheard of. It also means having literary agents come in and lead courses, talk to you about what is a query letter, what needs to go in a query letter, what doesn't, what agents are looking for, what they specifically are looking for on their list, how to approach them. Also, what market trends are happening right now in the world. So those of us who like to align our books with the market and not just write that thing we're passionate about, we also want to be able to sell it and know that it'll sell. So like, what's the market looking like these days? I can say, like, I know for a fact after having dinner with my agent, romance fantasy is gigantic right now. It's gigantic. And she looked at me and was like, wink, wink. I was like, no, 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 that's not
I don't even know what that is.
that's not my mission.
I'm a nonfiction reader. I'm like, I don't even know what romantic fantasy.
Yeah, romantic fiction. I try to say it.
Are you going to vet the people, their realms? You know what I mean? Like the books that I've designed have been mostly creative versus like novels. So there's graphics involved, like you need an art director. But I took a course on how to get your book published on Amazon, more or less. I forgot the title of it, but it was a course, self-led. You have access to it for, I guess, a year, modules. And it was basically a pre-recorded, this guy, he did a course, recorded it, and then sold it later. And never finished the course. I would say it was a little bit teaching you how to write, and it was specific. It's like how to write a punchy book or something like this. So it was specific how to write a type of book that you can sell on Amazon. So the selling it on Amazon was maybe like 2 or 3 of the modules. It wasn't the whole thing. So what you're doing, would you say, are you going to vet the folks like you need to have completed your book? It needs to be fiction. It needs to be, you need to have a, certain things, because I think that for them to have a success rate, right? Like I wouldn't probably be someone that would take the course out the back, right? I don't have a book
Mhm.
yet. So, just letting them know, like, unless you're on this list, you know what I mean? Like, don't sign up. And you're teaching it all live as well.
Yeah, I'm teaching it all live. And for the 7 weeks, very much like going to a college or a writing program, but like a college, and you're taking a 7 week class and you show up every week at the same time on the same day, and you are there for 90 minutes to 2 hours. So it's exactly like that. Something that we've done before that we're used to. So it won't seem so foreign. But no, this will be for anyone who's interested. What will happen is once you're in the course, you sign up for the course, you go through all the onboarding, you have access to it in perpetuity. So if you're just starting, you have your starting point classes and they're applicable for where you are right now, right? But a month from now, you may be in a different place. And then you can pick up the other modules and you can watch them as many times as you need. You may, like I said, I was writing squad goals for 15 years. You may dip out because of life and come back to it and say, wait a minute. Oh, now I'm ready to start.
This is an investment.
Yes, I'm ready to start character development. I'm ready to start punching up the dialogue. I'm ready to start thinking about plot structure, and I want the most powerful climax at this point. So let me go take those 2 modules on character development dialogue and then also on plot structure, right? Or then you finish it. Maybe it takes you a year to finish it. It takes me 3 months to write a book.
Mm-hmm.
Some people it takes 15 years to write a book, also me. So you finish it and then you say, I need an agent. Now, how do I even begin that process? And then you go back to module led by the literary agent, right? And so it's yours. And unlike college, there are some courses I wish I could go back and take now as a grown woman that would be very helpful. You'll have access to the course forever. But there'll also be mini courses, because how could I do something that has saved my life and not offer mental fitness courses as mini courses? So, how to get past writer's block, how to use your life experience to motivate your characters, how to decide on your big book idea based on where you are emotionally. What are you most passionate about that you could actually fill a book with right now? So there will be mental fitness mini courses, as well as one of my favorite big editors that I mentioned before. She'll come in and she'll do monthly things as well as quarterly things. So there'll always be something popping within the curriculum that may be applicable to you if the big signature course is not. Like I said, it's a boutique curriculum, so there won't be 20 courses offered, but there may be something based on where you are that may be smart for you to register for. For example, and then I'll stop here. But one of my favorite courses that I'm really excited about teaching, it's going to be a mini course. It's how to write the outline. And a lot of people, bless our hearts, that come to me with their books, and I start flipping through, and I am like, okay, did you have an outline when you wrote this? Or a lot of folks will come to me and say, I'm stuck. And then we go through a series of questions. And then I say, did you have an outline? And they're like, no, I didn't. I just started writing because I had the idea, and they kept speaking to me and I just kept going. And then I didn't know where to go. Oh, okay. And so I always say, if you were in a new city, would you just get in the car and drive when you were on your way to a meeting that was like the most important meeting of your life? Would you just go drive and say, I'm going to feel my way to this life-changing meeting that I have to be at
Yeah.
in 20
You need a
minutes?
roadmap.
You're going to turn on GPS before probably the day before, to see where it is, how long is it going to take.
It seems so intuitive to, I think, I'll say, people like us. When you get things done, you realize you get things done because you set out a series of steps, and that is the way. We didn't start that way. We probably started in the intuitive guidance, like, let me just see how to get there.
Absolutely.
But now we operate differently, and I think that is
Absolutely.
so useful. I love that you also have mental wellness. I'm a big mental fitness person. I do meditation and I have a certificate in holistic wellness. And I used to be a practitioner at clients for a little while. And I see in the courses that I take all different types. I'm doing astrology, but I took this investor A to Z with this really great group of women. They're called Dow Janes. And it's like from how to do a checking account. Like maybe you've never learned this, whatever. Anyway, they have all the things and they had meditation classes on there. They had a class on or a module on like, what's your money story? How to get over your money blocks. And so I love seeing that integrated into all of these education modules because there's you can too. And then you have to acknowledge like, I could, but like maybe there's a reason I'm not, right? And so having these extra things help you investigate and get over where maybe you're stuck. So that's a real
writer's block is real.
It is real. And sometimes, you just need to work out and then you're good, right? It's like you gotta find what works for you. If I don't work out every day, I'm angry and someone's getting these hands. You know what I mean? Like this is just
That's
the Aries rising rises. Okay. So where can we get in touch with you if people want to maybe after they read, there's a Hollywood agent that's watching and they want to get in touch or they want to take your module, which is launching. When is it launching? Like when can people option to work with you?
We're going to do a free live masterclass, which I'm really excited about in December. So if folks want to find out about publishing prep or get on the mailing list, the email list, which is what I strongly suggest. That way you're kept abreast of all the haps. We call it the lit list, the literature list, lit.
Nice.
So you can go to my Instagram or my Facebook and the link for that is in the bio. But you can go to publishingprep.com for everything.
And what's your Insta handle if they just want to connect with you?
It's just my name, Erika J. Kendrick. And then Facebook is also Erika J. Kendrick. And I love DMs. So that's my preferred mode of communication. I am in my DMs constantly talking to folks who've heard me speak, who want to share something that they may have been too afraid to share in front of an audience about mental fitness or some challenges. Or I've got some middle graders, upper middle graders who DM me about the books or they want to talk literally about the characters. And I love that. So yeah, just shoot me a DM anytime. But yeah, publishingprep.com will have everything. But you can get on the lit list like today if you are on my Instagram or something that's in the bio.
And probably by the time this is out, it's going to be up and launched. And congratulations. And I probably will be on there at some point soon. Super excited.
Elsa. Go, Elsa. Go, Elsa.
Well, thank you so much for joining today.
You're welcome.
Amazing.
Thank you for having me.
I'm super excited about all of your ventures and businesses and that you're successful and, really great role model.
Thank you.
This was amazing. And so all the information on how to get in touch with you is going to be in the show notes, just for anyone. You can reference it there. And that's all for today. And have a beautiful day. And thank you so much.
You too. You're welcome.
Thanks for listening. Sending soothing calm to your nervous system. Hit subscribe and join me on this feminine-led entrepreneurial journey. The Radiant Genius Podcast, where we discuss all things brilliant.